So, Tom, couple
First
of
of all,
areas.
the gang's all here. Where are you, Tom?
Oh.
We're all back in studio together for the first time.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming into the studio and
Come
seeing
on
you
in.
guys. Sounds like a lot of fun that everybody's back together.
We brought snacks.
Yeah, we brought snacks, which you're missing out on. But do you have a timetable for when you're going to come back?
Well, when I come out of my French TV show, I used to come down the hill and
Right.
do your show in the studio. So I'll be able to probably do one of those next week.
Hey.
Okay, that'd be fun.
Great.
Gang's all here. Okay, Tom, let me start with something that really got my goat. Mathieu Bock-Côté, who basically wrote, and I'm going to translate from his French, basically saying that, you know what, he's really happy because finally the provincial government has started to get the federal government scared again. What does that mean?
Well, it means that Mathieu Bock-Côté has written another article that got your goat, but it really
That's
means
true.
I don't think it means that much. I do share his view that, and that's why I think he's getting a little bit excited, that Francois Legault has never really renounced being a sovereignist. He's just taking a different approach. So he described before the 2018 campaign what that step-by-step approach would be, and he's doing exactly what he said he would do. He's going after full jurisdiction in areas like language, culture, and, more recently, immigration. And Legault said he's going to huff and puff and blow the whole house down if he doesn't get what he wants in immigration. And Trudeau's already told him to take a hike, much to Trudeau's credit, because what Legault was going after, and a great piece, by the way, by Rima El Khoury in the press today, sort of saying, what century does Legault live in? Basically, it's an anti-immigration approach that he's taking again. But he rode that hobby horse in the last campaign, and it worked out well for him, and it helped him draw in a lot of the Parti Québécois support because, of course, Legault was former Parti Québécois minister, so he knows the secret handshake. So he's talking to those voters again this time, saying, "Oh, look, we've got them all excited and upset about Bill 96. I must be doing something right." And that's where, that's where my colleague Mathieu Bock-Côté. I mean, I've been debating this guy, headbutting with him, and having fun fighting with him for the past 4 years. But he's essentially saying, "Oh, it looks like Legault's finally getting them really upset in Ottawa. That must be good for sovereignty." It depends on which side of the Francois Legault coin you come down on. Is he really angling to make Quebec fully sovereign? I don't think he's completely given up on it, but he'll probably settle for the equivalent of sovereignty within Canada, or as Yvon Deschamps used to say, a strong independent Quebec within a happy united Canada.
So if the feds aren't scared, what is their reaction right now?
They're terrified.
Oh, they
Justin
are
Trudeau's
scared. They
terrified
really
of Francois
are. Okay.
Legault. He's hiding under his desk.
Okay.
He's not going to come out and take on. I've always avoided this because I find it had been unfair for Mr. Trudeau to constantly hark back to his dad. So if you go through our last several years together, you never hear me do this. But I'm going to do it for one time and simply say this: that when it came to very simple black and white questions, is it the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of Canada that decides who gets to go to English school in Quebec, or is it Bill 101? Well, when that was a fight before the courts, guess what? The federal attorney general was there, front and center, arguing that it was the charter that prevailed. When Brown's shoe case went to the Supreme Court, the federal government was there saying, well, no, you can require the addition of other languages, but you can't ban English in Quebec. And guess what? The Attorney General of Canada was there making that argument. David Lametti will not take on Francois Legault because he's not being allowed to take on Francois Legault. It's interesting because when Jody Wilson-Raybould was the Attorney General of Canada, of course, she got in all sorts of trouble because she wouldn't do what Justin Trudeau told her to do. So guess what? I'm starting to get the impression that when she went on to get reelected as an independent candidate because people respected her that much, Trudeau simply put out a call for tenders and said, find me a lawyer in caucus who will never question anything I tell him to do. And I think that David Lametti fan must have gone up and he got the job because he never questioned the strategy of Trudeau or the people around him. He's not acting as an independent advisor as Attorney General of Canada. His number one job is to support and defend and uphold the Constitution, but he doesn't do that. He finds all sorts of excuses. Well, I'm going to wait to see what they actually do with Bill 96, that sort of stuff, instead of taking the thing to court, as he should have done, and had the thing dealt with by the Supreme Court. And let the chips fall where they may. I don't claim to know what the Supreme Court's going to rule.
Can I ask you, Tom, we were talking about this with Jim Ennie earlier on the fact that actually Francois Legault said he is now bothered by the fact that French is not spoken at home. In other words, something that, is typically pointed to show the French is, needs to be protected, et cetera, what the government always cites, and then actually said, what's spoken in your home is what's of concern to him, which just seems amazing to me. Did you hear this today?
Yeah, and this is pure Francois Legault because he doesn't think this stuff through. And it also shows that he's not smart on this stuff. He doesn't have any grounding in society that would make him feel empathy for people who have a different experience from him. He wants everybody to be like him. So he's an old stock French Canadian, and he thinks that everybody who's different. I mean, I've actually heard the argument made that when you're in school, you have to be able to talk about the TV shows you watched on French TV the night before, otherwise you're not integrating. I mean, this is the same sort of thing. You know, these are people who in school and in the case of the kids and at work in the case of the parents speak French because that's the way things go in Quebec, and that's fine. But then when they get home, they're either speaking a language that's common to them from a previous home of their family in another country, or they're speaking English such as they want. So if Legault's actually to the point where he thinks that he can have influence over that, then he's really, really lost the plot.
Well, you saw David Birnbaum. Do you see this tweet from this morning? I see he posted this just before noon. So David Birnbaum, and I'm going to read you this in its entirety. Shameful. Just now, Francois Legault, off microphone but audible, and twice said, quote, "C'est le West Island que s'énerve," unquote. That was his outrageous response to question period intervention on his on-the-record attacks on Quebecers whose mother tongue is other than French.
Yeah, it's a fight that he wants to have.
Yeah.
He wants this reaction that you're having right now. And I'm not telling you to react otherwise, by the way, because I agree with you.
How do you not?
But this is exactly what he wants. He wants to hold on to the PQ vote. The PQ would be doing a good job. I mean, right now, you know, stronger PQ voices are out there saying, hey, he said he was going to get, you know, more powers in immigration. Trudeau told him to take a hike, and he's not doing anything. So he's got to play this game. And by the way, the West Island stuff, he'll always talk about how difficult it was because, of course, he grew up in St. Anne de Bellevue, and there were just so many Anglophones around there. And he talks about the fact that his mom, she had to work at John Abbott College, you know, and his famous quote, that Graham Fraser gave us, that on the night of that he became the candidate for the Parti Québécois the first time, somebody talked about the Anglos and said, I hate them as much as you do. So this is Francois Legault. It's his worldview. It's not a very open view of the world.
No, and he's stuck in the past because, I'm sorry, there's lots of Francophones in the West Island now, just as there are lots of Francophones in NDG and Côte-des-Neiges. Times are changing, and he's stuck in the past.
But if he's doubling down on this, Tom, as you're suggesting, what's the end game here?
The end game for him is to win the election. This is 100% electoral. Why do you think that all of a sudden we find out that, according to CBC report anyway, looks like Bill 96 is going to be signed by the lieutenant governor. It'll become law. Yeah. It'll be promulgated, but it won't be proclaimed into force for at least another year. What do you think that means? I think that Legault is not a complete idiot. I know that he's never read 96. I know that he listens to Simon-Jeanin Barrette, and he complains that there's stuff out there that's not true. The only stuff on 96 that's not true is the stuff that Simon-Jeanin Barrette paid a lot of money to get a full-page ad in the Gazette, Journal de Montréal, and La Presse to say the opposite of the truth on Bill 96. But Legault is not an idiot. He's got people around him anyway who are a lot smarter than Simon-Jeanin Barrette, and they've probably looked at this thing and said, boss, the people, you know, like the College of Physicians and Surgeons, when they say this thing's a problem for access to health and social services in English, they're telling the truth. And when people say that there's a clause in there that says that the language police can actually search and seize your business, take away your computer and your cell phone without a warrant, and you don't have the charter rights to protect yourself, that's true. That's all in there, Mr. Legault. And Legault started going, let's adopt it. We'll sign it into force. We can point to it. I'll keep the language wars going until the election, and then we'll let cooler heads prevail. You know, it might be a bit of that as well.
But today we played that clip. Simon-Jeanin Barrette said that particular thing you're talking about right now, Tom, the search and seizure and whatever by the OQLF, that's not going to be for another 3 years.
Well, where's that written?
Go ahead and play the clip. Take a listen to this. Here you go.
Yeah.
Some part of the bill that apply today. Other part apply in 3 years. Example for the l'affichage for businesses, and also to the bill for 25 to 49 employee apply in 3 years.
3 years.
Oh, he said affichage.
Well, signage and businesses, yeah.
Well, moving from 49 to 25, but you didn't speak about search and seizure. But it doesn't matter because the 3 years is another indication of what I just said.
It is.
They're starting to realize that this thing is a dog's breakfast. You know, you can't just walk into the CEGEP system across the province and say, oh, by the way, now all of a sudden we're going to invent these teachers to teach French at the CEGEP level who don't exist. And then all of a sudden in the English CEGEPs like Dawson, John Abbott, Vanier, and Champlain and whatnot, you're going to say, oh, and by the way, now you're going to have teachers all of a sudden who are going to be able to teach physics and chemistry and calculus and biology in French in the English stages. And without even, what are you going to do? Decree new collective agreements? Because you're going to have to tear up the old ones? Of course, none of this has been thought through. That's further proof that this is just political posturing. The only person who's not in on the secret is Simon Jolin Barrette.
Okay, now he got a new title and a new mandate today. Does this change anything?
Natasha, it changes nothing.
That's what I figured.
There will from now on be a minister of the French language. So he was not the minister responsible for the charter of the French language. He's now the minister of the French language. He is Mulcair. It's him. But they'll probably come up with somebody a lot better than him to handle this file after the next election. But he's part of the fig leaf that Legault has to wear with regard to the Parti Québécois between now and the next election. He just has to be able to say, I got this, I'm on top of it.
Tom, I just want to ask one thing. If you'll just pardon my naivete here, are there not enough moderate voices on the French side seeing this kind of reaction on an everyday basis from Legault who'll say, you know what, even for me, I can't go along with what he's doing. I will not vote for him.
I can remember when Alliance Quebec was being pulled together. Strong people like John Parazella, Eric Maldoff, Michael Goldblum, Jeff Chambers, meeting with René Lévesque, channeling the anxiety and the concerns of the English-speaking community, but reaching out to him saying, we've got to talk about this stuff. And that was the beginning of a constructive, fruitful conversation. And the community itself has gone through so many different versions of this. Recently, we had 2 different people who wanted to start English rights parties. It's interesting. That hasn't been too much on the radar screen lately. Maybe they've started to think that one through. But at some point, you have to be able to have somebody on the other end. And I would dare to say that with the stuff that we get out of Legault, we never got any of that stuff out of René Lévesque. It was because it wasn't his mindset. He was an open individual. He had traveled the world. He knew how things worked. And he didn't bear that sort of, childhood grudge that François Legault drags around with him like a dark cloud, about the English-speaking community of Quebec. But I do think that talking to this guy, despite his limitations, has to be part of the plan.
All right.
Tom Mulcair. Tom, thank you so much.